All right, everyone, I will end the awkward silence and we will get started as people start to funnel in. But hello and welcome to the second of our FCFC webinar series. The FCFC, or Future Counter Fraud Community, kind of does two things. The aim is to firstly look at counter fraud careers, kind of open up some pathways and show you what it's all about. The second is to raise awareness of counter fraud and basically help you in the future if you start noticing it. For this webinar, we'll also be talking about cybercrime, and in a minute when our guests introduce themselves, you'll know why. This session is for anyone. We know that we have a cross-sector audience for this webinar. So if you're interested in a career in counter fraud or just looking to get some awareness or kind of understand why awareness campaigns are written the way they are, this webinar is for you. Throughout this webinar, you can ask questions by putting them in the Q&A box. And if there is enough time, we might be able to come back to them later. And just so you're aware, this webinar has been recorded and will be available on demand afterwards. So if you know someone who couldn't come or you think this would be useful for somebody else, then you can send it on as of tomorrow, really. I'm now going to introduce our speakers are going to introduce themselves, and I'm very thankful that they're here with us today. So, Tim, if I can get you to introduce yourself, that'd be amazing.
Thank you very much, Hope. It's great to join you today. Thanks for the invite. I'm Tim Mitchell. I'm Content Director at Get Safe Online. I've been in that role as long ago as 2012. We have a UK website which has been going since 2006. Updated over the years, of course. And we've also got 26 other websites and representations in countries around the world. And it's my responsibility to curate and also create most of the content for those and everything else we do. Great to be here.
Amazing. Thank you, Till. And Gill, please.
Yep, certainly. Gill Thomas from the Global Cyber Alliance. I'm the Director of Engagement on our Quest 2 Resilience programme here. So just a little bit about my background and how I got into this particular role. Many years ago, I studied electronic engineering. At university, I spent a number of years in the telecoms industry, and then I actually took a career break for quite a while with my young family, came back in to the industry and found how the internet had really taken off, and combining with all the good stuff that the internet can do for us, it's also being used for malicious purpose by many people, and that's what got me interested in cybersecurity. So I have no coding experience, I don't have any computer science experience, but the best teams really are from a diverse background, really multidisciplinary and diverse. And so what I'm sort of trying to say really is that regardless of what your background is, there's definitely a place here for you, and it's a great place to be. So great to be here. Global Cyber Alliance, we're a global non-profit organisation, and we are focused on reducing cyber risk for everybody. Thank you, Hope.
Amazing. Thank you, Gill. And I'll introduce myself as well. I'm Hope Sapey. I'm the Campaigns Executive Fraud Advisory Panel, which basically just means I help organise and produce campaigns and events for Fraud Advisory Panel. Fraud Advisory Panel is a 26-year-old charity that focuses in 3 areas. The first, as this webinar proves, is the next generation of counter fraud professionals. The second is charities raising awareness and helping them gain access to the material they need to help stop fraud. And then finally, businesses as well. And thank you both for joining us. So when we were coming up with the idea for this webinar, it came about in a really odd way because we were considering all the career paths you can take into counter fraud or anti-cyber crime. And one of the things is that when we were talking to students and apprentices, a lot of them had the same thought. It was talking about law enforcement and the police and accountants and lawyers. But a lot of it felt very much like either the fraud has already happened or chasing the bad guy. That was the kind of direction. But actually our careers are in a slightly different area. We hope to raise awareness with the aim of someone not doing something or maybe doing something different. But we kind of come at the other end of counter fraud, and that's just shouting a lot, it feels like, about it. We've all run lots of campaigns between us. So my kind of first question is, where do these come about? What are the first steps when you're coming up with a campaign, and why do you create them in the way you do? Tim, I might come to you first, and we'll kind of go around in a triangle as it is on my screen.
Okay, well, that's a really good question. Thanks, Ho. We have in the UK, starting off, we have a campaigns calendar, which our comms director and I work together on, using information that we've gained on the current threat landscape, things that are of current interest. So AI is of huge interest at the moment, as we all know. And some of it's driven seasonally. So in August, for example, we might put together a campaign for September for parents of students going off to uni for the first time. Earlier in the year, it's romance fraud, which, as we all know, is huge. Romance fraud is traditionally covered a lot by especially the media in February, because it's Valentine's Day, apparently. But the vast majority of new online relationships actually start in January, and that's the peak month for online dating. So we like to kind of mix things up a bit, but we are very cognizant of the best time to approach those particular subjects. So that's our UK campaigns. We also run campaigns in conjunction with some of our partners who ask us to highlight things that they are seeing, like banks, etc. And earlier I mentioned that we have representation around the world. So one of the campaigns that's been particularly prominent recently is on online gender-based violence. So what Get Safe Online does isn't all about fraud by any means. It's a lot of it, but it's also about protecting yourself from all the other harms that we all face daily. And online gender-based violence is a global problem. It's more prevalent in some countries than other countries, as indeed is is violence in the real world. Not that online isn't the real world, because it is, but that's perhaps an easy way to put it. And so we started off by putting together some advice in one particular country that was having a particular issue with it, and that was at the behest of the government agency we worked with in that country, and it just spiraled and it became a sort of global campaign. And what we are doing now is actually putting together some new material on it, which is going to be cascaded around the world. So there are a number of different ways in which we devise what we're going to do. Some of it's orchestrated 18 months in advance. Some of it, we're small and agile enough to put something out tomorrow or next week. So it's an interesting job for me, because we never know sort of quite what we're going to be doing tomorrow, which I love.
Amazing. And I enjoy that, because you mentioned partners there, and I know Gill and I both will bring this up as well, but partners are so important, because Fraud Advisory Panel, the Love Business Hate Fraud campaign is a perfect example of, we saw an issue, SMEs were being targeted. They're quite a large amount, quite a large percentage of the UK economy made up of SMEs. And actually, as I work at Barclays Bank, which enabled us to get that campaign done, and their input was very important to us. And then additionally, you have the Charity Commission and BDOs and EMM support in Charity Fraud Awareness Week, and all the other people who wrote material. But actually, without those partners giving us the direction, it's very hard for us to go, this seems to be the biggest problem, or we should be focusing on this. So partners are so important. Gill, how about you? Where do your campaigns stem from?
Yeah, certainly. So it's really understanding what message we're trying to address, what the vulnerable communities are, and then understanding why they're vulnerable, what the particular threats are, and understanding how that particular audience that we're trying to reach, how they digest that information, why is it important to them, putting it across in a way that they understand, making the messages very clear, and so those messages resonate with that audience. And as Tim was saying, timing is important as well. So what particular threats are more likely to occur maybe at different times of the year, or maybe in different countries, and how can we best scale that messaging? So it's a combination of that clear, consistent messaging, drip feeding throughout the year, but then maybe focusing at particular times of the year as well, or or to particular communities. Working with partners again is really important. Surveying the audience that you want to reach out to, creating those focus groups, working with partners that have got the outreach into those communities, so those messages can get across and we can change behaviour at scale. But then also to understand obviously what's going to resonate with them, what are they doing at the moment, what do we want them to do, and then we can prevent the current behaviour that or the thought process that they have, create those sort of let's stop and think, and then move forward from there, really. So making them more aware of that. And just on that point that Tim mentioned actually about the physical versus the online world, that's, in the physical world, let's say if I'm going somewhere, and maybe it's in the evening, I would choose my route carefully. I would think, well, I'm not going to walk through the park. It's going to take me slightly longer, but I'm going to walk down the residential streets. There's street lights there. I feel safer. We don't have those physical the physical stimulation in the online world, but we haven't necessarily and so we don't have those considerations built into us, because online is still to an extent perceived as being quite new, but we still have to take those same precautions, but we have to do it in a slightly different way. And it's educating those and making sure that we change that behavior so that people do take those same precautions, but in a way that's effective online for them.
Amazing. Because you bring up the audience as well, and we all have very differing audiences, I think, and the way we speak to them is so important, and that can affect the entire campaign. And kind of comes back to the next question on this, which is kind of once you've decided on what your campaign's about, whether that be anything that we do, how does the next bit get decided? So the look and the language. From personal experience, I know that when we were doing the Love Business Hate Fraud campaign, one of the things that was really important to us was making it as easy to understand as physically possible. We wanted anyone, no matter what, to be able to pick up whatever we wrote and go, I get it. I understand what the FAP are trying to say. And that even came down to the definition of fraud. It went through so much review because we wanted to make sure that everyone could go, I know that fraud is theft with a trick or something else. I know it's going to be a controversial statement for me to make that it is that, but it all stemmed again from our work with charities. It was, can somebody who is a trustee who just likes football and is now in charge of all of the counter fraud because they're the treasurer of a charity that they like, could they pick this up and go, I understand what I'm looking at from a fraud perspective. I know what someone's going to try and do. I just wonder if you guys have like similar experiences or totally different experiences with how you make your campaigns look and sound and how you interact with that audience. Tim, if you want to go first.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that absolutely resonates with me. I before being in the sort of cybersecurity sector, I spent most of my career in marketing as a writer, copywriter, and my hero was a guy called David Ogilvy, whose name you might recognise from Ogilvy Group, which is now a part of WPP, it's worldwide. And David Ogilvy was a copywriter, and he said in one of his sort of most quoted sayings, which has became my mantra very quickly, was if you want to people you're talking to understand, to listen, talk to them in a language they understand. And it sounds terribly simple and straightforward, but sadly we don't see that in a lot of either marketing or cybersecurity comms. One of the big challenges we had when we sort of retook the Get Safe Online website and tore it apart and built it up again was also one of our greatest benefits. So we've got a massive range of demographics. We've got people from all backgrounds, all types of education, all socioeconomic groups, different countries, cultures. So fantastic opportunity to talk to everybody about online safety, which affects everybody, but also a huge range of people to talk to, whose perhaps maturity in understanding of cybersecurity varies very differently. So it's how to achieve a balance between being over technical, perhaps, and simply being patronizing. And it's quite difficult to strike that balance, but people tell us we have it right. So, but we always look for feedback on that. So really back to David Ogilvy, just absolutely keep it simple, keep it understandable. Most of us are not talking to people with degrees in computer science. We're not talking to programmers. We're not talking to coders. We're talking to members of the public and people that run businesses and charities. And just let's always keep that front of mind.
Yeah, it's great, Tim, because you bring up a point that I think resonates with all of us, is that the people who give us a lot of this information are those experts. We often filter information from those who understand it in a really technical way, who have all the understanding in the world, and we kind of take it, break it down, make it palatable for anyone to pick it up. Gill, I'll pass on to you.
Yeah, certainly. I absolutely agree with you there, Tim and Hope. And there is just far too much technical jargon. And when you think that you understand something, and somebody else comes up with a new terminology, and you just want to take it back to those to as simple as possible. We've an example from Global Cyber Alliance's perspective. We provide what we call GCA cybersecurity toolkits. And they are filled with actionable tools actually to prevent, to reduce your cyber risk. And we have a number of toolkits available. We have them for individuals, we have them for small businesses, we have them for journalists, election officials, and also for non-profit organisations as well. And whilst the tools in them are all pretty much the same, it's the messaging that's different. It's talking to them in a language that they understand, sitting as if you are a small business or as if you're a non-profit organisation or an individual. What's important to you in that particular role? And we have to get that message across so it is absolutely understandable. And again, that's where working with partners, working with those end users to understand that is so important. And it's taking those extra steps in the preparation of that campaign, in the work that you do, that will enable that campaign or those toolkits that we have to have more impact with that chosen audience. So it's a really important, critical part of that preparatory.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Gill. The audience is so important. We all know that, having done campaigns, down to the colours you pick and how you present yourself. And are you a warning? Are you in red and yellow telling people not to do something, or are you trying to tell them through positive encouragement? I know, Gill, you're currently doing some work on a campaign for, is it 18 to 25-year-olds? Has that changed at all, kind of how you're writing the messaging, or is it, how are you getting directed by that?
Yeah, certainly. And that particular work is, we're working in conjunction with Amazon on that, and we're hoping to launch a tool mid-June time, 12th of June, I think it is, that's coming that will be coming out, and it's taking us a while to get it right, so that we want to create that impact, because you only really get one chance to get it right, and you need to get it right first time. So really back last year, we know that 18 to 25-year-olds are sort of, the perception is that they're going to be quite secure when they're online because they've grown up with it. But actually, the research has shown that they're more likely to be targeted. There was some research done actually by UK Finance last year that showed that over half of them had been targeted, and of those, nearly half had been targeted in the last year, and of those, over half of those had actually shared personal information or made a payment as a result. And yet, when they're asked, how confident are you, over 90% suggested that they were confident that they would be able to spot a scam. So that confidence or overconfidence actually translates into vulnerability. And so we've produced surveys, and these are global surveys working with partners across the globe to sort of understand why that is, and the current feelings amongst those groups, and how they're targeted as well. And we've also done focus groups as well with that age group that we're trying to reach. And as I say, we work closely with partners as well. So that, you know, what we're developing will resonate with that audience. And they will take the desired action. So to an extent, it's about, you know, using social engineering to our advantage, doing that before anybody else does. And so they know when somebody else tries that they've got that knowledge, and they've got that that ability to, first of all, sort of stop and think, and not sort of launch into what that particular scammer or whoever is wanting them to do. So yeah, that research is really important. But no, it's really exciting what we're doing for the 18 to 25-year-olds. So really looking forward to that.
Gill, I absolutely applaud that campaign. Can't wait to see it. It's really interesting what you said about the youngsters being, or the 18 to 25 age group being targeted, and the perception of how that works. A few years ago, we ran a campaign called Scammer Nanas, and we actually recruited 5 or 6 grandmothers, and we got them to send an email to their grandchildren with a link in it, and it was quite hard hitting. But and then we followed that up with a campaign where we said, if you want to know anything about tech, or know how to do something, or play a game, or fix something, or add an app, ask your kids or your grandchildren. But if you want to know how to stop being scammed, or if you want to protect yourself, maybe ask the older generations, and everybody has some advice to give to the other generations. So all the tech stuff, it's great to ask the kids, but they haven't got that life experience, you know, that we all kind of have. So there's something for everybody in that life chain, isn't there? I think so. I can't wait to see what you're doing.
Yeah, and actually that also brings up the point of the importance of diversity within the teams, and within the, you know, the counter fraud community and the cybersecurity community, because it's, you know, it's about the technical, it's about the generation, it's about all of those different factors being thought about and being considered, and really important to take into account all of those different concepts. So no, that's a really good point as well. So yes, thank you, Tim.
Yeah,
that makes me feel a lot better at my age. Thanks, Gill.
it does really like drill down into the fact that we need so many people in this industry. Like, the fact is that no one of us can create good campaigns. It takes a lot of people and a lot of questions being asked and answered, and us looking at what works and then what doesn't work, which is even worse. But just drilling down into, can we get that information across to the right people, make them aware? So kind of approaching the last question, which is around career itself. I did the launch of the FCFC community, or the FCFC, at the start of this month. And one of the things was I sat on a panel and discussed my career with some lawyers and some accountants. And I can say with confidence, I didn't see my career going this way when I joined Counter Fraud 2 years ago. If you said, oh, you're going to really enjoy campaigns and that's the part of your job that you're going to focus on probably for the foreseeable future, I would have been like, no, I'm going to be a fraud investigator. And now I can't imagine anything like that. But if you're going to describe your role or your career to someone, or almost try and engage them into maybe considering awareness campaigns as a career path, could either of you kind of describe that or put it into words? Gill, can I start with you this time?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's about doing good and helping people, and about making a difference. Everyone's got transferable skills that can come into this sector. And it's whatever you're doing now or wherever you want to go, there is a role to play within cyber, within counter fraud, whether that be on the campaigns, whether it be working somewhere else. But unfortunately it's such a growth industry, and we've got to stop it. It's a really important, a really worthwhile career to be involved in. And it's working with people, it's changing behavior. You all know it's if you want it, say as you're growing up, if you want that sweet in the sweet shop, and whoever's with you doesn't want to give it to you, you're going to be thinking through your mind, what can I do that will make that person change their mind and do what I want to do? Well, this is essentially, I guess, the grown-up version of that, if you like. But it's using all of that, and the reward to know that when you have put something out that's good, and that people have taken action and have made a difference and changed behavior as a result of that, and have just taken those additional steps and stopped themselves from being a victim of fraud, well, that's brilliant. And then sharing that information that they've gained with their peers and with their other friends as well. And so we can just create that scale. But definitely, there's definitely a role. It's very rewarding role, and as I say, there's a place for everybody. So I don't know if that encouraged anybody or not, but definitely, yeah, I enjoy it.
Absolutely perfect, Gill. Thanks so much. And you, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely echo what Gill says 100%. If I use the word altruism, when it's kind of part of what you get out of it, I don't know if that's too strong or not really, but there's definitely a reward in knowing that you just saved one person from being scammed. But yes, it is very rewarding. So when I went to school, I don't think we had computers at all, and like a lot of people of my age, I pinch myself and think, how did I get here? Why am I in this career? But I am, and I absolutely love it. But cyber is a massive sector. There's a massive skills shortage in the UK and around the world, and they're absolutely crying out for people who, as Gill pointed out, that don't necessarily have the background that you might think they expect. So there are so many paths into the industry, be they academic or industry or what have you, and I would implore that if you are thinking about it, you don't get put off. And just to finish off with that, we did a webinar for International Women's Day back in March, and it was to celebrate and champion women in cybersecurity. And it just highlighted to us that there's something like 20% of all cyber jobs around the world are held by women, and of course women make up 50% of the workforce. So there's a massive. It doesn't need maths to say there's a massive gap there. And we spoke to some really determined ladies who come from all kinds of backgrounds, and you know, there are directors of the country cert in there, and people talking to the UN and all kinds of things. So I would say if you're a female, it's not a male it's not a male business. It's for everybody. Don't get put off by prejudice. Don't get put off by I can't do that, because you're every bit as good as everybody else. Just go for it. It's a great sector to be in.
Thank you both of you. Some fantastic points there. The fact is that there is growing industry. There is space for everyone. We do need more people endlessly, because to be diverse and to get all of the voices across, we need so many people. The other thing is that you will be championed. There are people out there who want to see this grow, are invested in the next generation of fraud and cybercrime fighter, however that looks. So there are people, it's partly the reason the FCFC was created, is that there are people actively invested in bringing you up into to take our place in the future. There are no questions at the end of this webinar, so I'm going to say thank you to both speakers. You've been fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the audience as well. This webinar will be up tomorrow, and if you've got any questions post this webinar, my email address is on the Fraud Advisory Panel website, and you can send them through to me. But thank you again, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Hope.
Thank you.